The text from my sister Vanessa came 3 days before her wedding. Hey Lily. Quick thing. Mom's worried about photos. Can you leave the oxygen tank in the hotel room during the ceremony? Just for an hour? We can have someone bring it to the reception after. Don't want it in all the pictures. You understand. I stared at my phone, sitting in the pulmonology clinic where I received my weekly treatments. The oxygen concentrator hummed quietly beside me, the cannula comfortable in my nose after 2 years of use. Idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Diagnosed at 26, which made me a medical anomaly. The disease typically affected people over 60. My lungs were scarring, stiffening, making every breath harder than it should be. The oxygen wasn't optional. It wasn't cosmetic. Kept me alive. But to my family it was an inconvenience. An embarrassment. Health drama, as my mother called it. When I was first diagnosed, Dad had patted my shoulder and said, "Well, at least it's manageable. Not like you have cancer or something." Mom had immediately pivoted to worrying about how my situation would affect Vanessa's wedding planning. People will ask questions. It'll become the focus. This is Vanessa's day. Vanessa, my older sister by 4 years, was marrying Connor Blake, a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm. The wedding was a lavish affair at the Rosewood estate. 200 guests, a string quartet, imported flowers. Vanessa had been planning it for 18 months, documenting every detail on social media with the hashtag Vanessa gets her happily ever after. My declining health had been treated as a disruption to this narrative. Family dinners became lectures about staying positive and not making everything about my illness. When I had to skip Vanessa's bachelorette party due to a hospital stay for pneumonia, she'd sent a cold text. "I guess some things are more important than family." The oxygen tank apparently was the final straw. I typed a reply. "The oxygen isn't optional. I need it to breathe." Vanessa's response came immediately. "It's 1 hour. Just sit in the back. Please don't make this difficult." What they didn't know, what I'd never bothered explaining because they'd never asked the right questions, was that my pulmonologist wasn't just any doctor. Dr. Marcus Reeves was the leading researcher on early-onset pulmonary fibrosis in the country. He ran the Advanced Lung Disease Program at University Medical Center, published groundbreaking research, and consulted on complex cases worldwide. He was also Connor's college roommate and best friend. Connor had mentioned it casually at a family dinner 6 months ago, talking about his wedding party. My best man Marcus is flying in from a conference in Geneva. Brilliant guy, he's some kind of lung specialist. Saves lives for a living while I just shuffle papers. I'd frozen with my fork halfway to my mouth. "Dr. Marcus Reeves? Yeah, you know him? He's my pulmonologist." The table had gone silent. Then Mom had laughed nervously. What a small world. Well, don't bore him with medical talk at the wedding. He probably wants a break from all that. They'd never mentioned it again. Never asked about my treatment. Never wondered why someone of Dr. Reeves's caliber was managing my care. They filed it away as a coincidence and returned to discussing centerpiece options. What they especially didn't know was that I wasn't just Dr. Reeves's patient. I was his research partner. 6 months after my diagnosis, he'd approached me about an experimental treatment protocol he was developing. I'd enrolled in the clinical trial and my case had become central to his research. My outcomes were being documented in medical journals. I'd co-authored 2 papers with him on early intervention strategies. Last month, his research won a major award from the National Institutes of Health. My case study was featured in his presentation. He'd thanked me by name in his acceptance speech, calling me an extraordinary partner in advancing our understanding of this devastating disease. My family hadn't watched the ceremony. They'd been busy with wedding preparations. I didn't reply to Vanessa's text. Instead, I finished my treatment and went home to pack for the wedding weekend. Friday evening was the rehearsal dinner at an upscale restaurant. I arrived with my portable oxygen concentrator in a small backpack, the cannula tucked discreetly. I'd learned to manage my condition with minimal visibility, not because I was ashamed, but because it made daily life easier. Vanessa hugged me at the entrance, then immediately glanced at my backpack. "Is that?" "Yes. I need it." She bit her lip. "Okay, but maybe sit near the back? And tomorrow for the ceremony we talked about that, right? We'll discuss it tomorrow." Dinner was the usual performance. Vanessa and Connor at the head table, glowing and perfect. Dad gave a toast about his accomplished daughters, lingering extensively on Vanessa's marketing career and Connor's legal achievements, mentioning me only as our sweet Lily, who's dealing with some health challenges but staying strong. Some health challenges. Like it was a head cold. Dr. Reeves sat at the wedding party table with the other groomsmen. I'd seen him in clinical settings dozens of times, but never in a tuxedo at a social event. He caught my eye across the room and offered a small nod. Professional acknowledgement, nothing more. After dinner, Connor approached with Dr. Reeves beside him. Lily, Marcus was just asking about you. Small world that you're one of his patients. Dr. Reeves's expression was carefully neutral. Lily, good to see you outside the clinic. How have you been feeling? Stable. Maintaining the protocol. Excellent. Make sure you're not overexerting this weekend. Wedding activities can be taxing. Vanessa had drifted over, champagne in hand. Marcus, you're not going to talk medicine all night, are you? Connor says you're brilliant but you work too much. Just checking on a patient, Dr. Reeves said mildly. Well, Lily's fine. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. We've planned everything down to the minute. Vanessa squeezed my arm. And we figured out the oxygen thing. Lily's going to leave it in the hotel room during the ceremony. Just an hour, totally manageable. Dr. Reeves's expression changed subtly. I'm sorry, leave what in the hotel room? Her oxygen tank. It's bulky and shows up in photos. Just for the ceremony and pictures. She can breathe on her own for an hour, right? It's not like she's dying or anything. The temperature in the conversation dropped 20 degrees. Vanessa, I said quietly, I tried to explain. Ms. Hartley, Dr. Reeves interrupted, his voice taking on the clinical authority I recognized from difficult medical discussions. Your sister has idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Her lung capacity is compromised. The supplemental oxygen isn't cosmetic or optional. It's life-sustaining medical equipment. Vanessa laughed uncertainly. But it's just an hour. People hold their breath longer than that. People with functional lungs, yes. Lily's lungs are scarred and stiffening. Without supplemental oxygen, her blood oxygen saturation drops to dangerous levels. An hour without it could cause hypoxia, organ damage, or respiratory failure. Connor had gone very still. Wait, Marcus, how serious is this? I thought Lily had some kind of minor lung condition. There's nothing minor about pulmonary fibrosis. It's a progressive, life-threatening disease. Lily's case is particularly severe because of her age. The disease is far more aggressive in young patients. Vanessa's champagne glass trembled. But Dad said it was manageable. Mom said she was doing fine, just needed some breathing help sometimes. Your family's characterization of Lily's condition has been criminally negligent, Dr. Reeves said, his voice hardening. She requires continuous oxygen therapy. She's on an experimental treatment protocol because standard interventions aren't sufficient. Without the research trial she's enrolled in, her prognosis would be lung transplant or palliative care within 3 years. The surrounding conversations had stopped. People were staring. Dad appeared, sensing trouble. Is everything all right here? Marcus, good to see you. Thanks for being Connor's best man. Mr. Hartley, I was just explaining to your daughters that Lily's oxygen therapy is medically necessary. I understand there's been a request for her to go without it during tomorrow's ceremony. Dad's expression tightened. Well, it's just for photos. Surely she can manage for a short time. We don't want the wedding pictures to look like a hospital scene. Dr. Reeves drew himself up to his full height. As Lily's treating physician, I'm stating unequivocally that removing her oxygen therapy for any period is medically inadvisable and potentially life-threatening. If she's pressured to do so and if she experiences any adverse medical event as a result, I will be obligated to report it to the state medical board as a case of family-inflicted medical neglect. The silence was absolute. Mom had joined us, her face pale. Medical board? That's extreme. We're just trying to have nice wedding photos. You're asking your daughter to risk her health and safety for aesthetics, Dr. Reeves said flatly. That's not extreme. That's abusive. And if Lily experiences any respiratory distress tomorrow because she felt pressured to forego necessary medical equipment, I will document it as such. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know. I thought it was just... I didn't know. You didn't ask. I said quietly. I tried to tell you how serious this was when I was diagnosed. Dad said, at least it's not cancer. Mom said I was making everything about myself. You said I was being dramatic when I missed your bachelorette party because I was hospitalized with pneumonia. Connor looked stricken. Marcus, you never mentioned. I mean, you said Lily was your patient, but you didn't say it was this serious. Patient confidentiality. Lily's condition is her information to share. But when I hear that she's being pressured to endanger her health for wedding photos, confidentiality becomes secondary to patient safety. Several guests were openly watching now. Vanessa's perfect wedding weekend was unraveling in real time. Dr. Reeves turned to me. Lily, I need to be clear. If you feel any pressure whatsoever to remove your oxygen therapy tomorrow, I want you to leave the venue immediately and call my emergency line. Your health is not negotiable. Do you understand? Yes. He looked at my family with something like contempt. Your daughter is alive because of experimental treatment that most patients don't have access to. She's contributing to research that will save lives. And you're treating her like she's ruining your photo opportunities with her medical equipment. It's unconscionable. He walked away. Connor followed, shooting apologetic glances back. The rehearsal dinner dissolved into awkward small talk and early departures. I went back to my hotel room alone. At midnight there was a knock on my door. Vanessa stood in the hallway, still in her rehearsal dinner dress, mascara streaked. Can I come in? I let her in. She sat on the edge of the bed looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I didn't know, she said finally. I swear, Lily, I didn't know it was that serious. You always seemed okay. You were still working, still going places. I thought the oxygen was just helping you breathe easier. Not keeping you alive. I tried to tell you. Multiple times. I know. I didn't listen. None of us did. We were so focused on me, on the wedding, on everything being perfect. And you were just there with your oxygen being quiet about it. She looked up, tears streaming. Marcus said experimental treatment. He said transplant or palliative care. Lily, are you dying? Everyone with this disease eventually progresses. The trial is working for now. My lung function has stabilized instead of declining. But yes, without intervention this disease is fatal. She sobbed openly. And I asked you to hide your oxygen tank for photos. Oh God, I'm a monster. You're not a monster. You just didn't understand. I didn't want to understand. It was easier to think you were being dramatic, that you were exaggerating for attention. Because if it was really serious, that would mean my little sister might. She couldn't finish the sentence. We sat in silence while she cried. I didn't comfort her. I was too tired. Tomorrow, she said finally. You wear your oxygen. I don't care about the photos. I don't care what anyone thinks. You wear whatever medical equipment you need, and if anyone has a problem with it, they can leave. Vanessa. I mean it. This is my wedding and my sister will be there, alive and breathing, and that's what matters. That's what should have always mattered. The next morning, I dressed in my bridesmaid gown with my oxygen concentrator in its small backpack. The cannula was visible. I didn't try to hide it. When I arrived at the bridal suite, my mother started to say something, but Vanessa cut her off. Lily wears her oxygen. End of discussion. The ceremony was beautiful. I stood with the other bridesmaids, my oxygen humming quietly. Several guests asked about it. I explained simply, I have a lung disease. This helps me breathe. Dr. Reeves gave a toast at the reception. Connor asked me to talk about our college days, but I'm going to talk about courage instead. True courage isn't about big dramatic moments. It's about facing each day with grace despite overwhelming challenges. I've had the privilege of working with someone who embodies that courage, Connor's new sister-in-law, Lily. She's taught me more about resilience than any medical textbook ever could. The reception erupted in applause. Vanessa was crying again. Connor stood and pulled me into a hug, whispering, I'm sorry we didn't understand. That changes now. My parents approached later, both looking aged and ashamed. We need to talk, Dad said. Really talk. About your health, your treatment, everything we've ignored. Yes, I agreed. You do need to understand. We didn't have that conversation at the wedding. But the following week they came to my apartment and listened as I explained pulmonary fibrosis, the clinical trial, the experimental treatments, the uncertain prognosis. They asked real questions. Mom took notes. Dad cried. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a beginning. 3 months later, Dr. Reeves published another paper featuring my case outcomes. My family read it, struggling through medical terminology but determined to understand. Vanessa shared it on social media with a caption about invisible illnesses and the importance of listening to people about their own health experiences. The wedding photos included my oxygen concentrator visible in several shots. Vanessa had them professionally printed and framed one for me. The two of us, sisters, her in white and me in blue, the oxygen tubing visible and unedited. She wrote on the back, "The most beautiful thing in this photo is that you're breathing." He was right.